So let's get started. Thank you very much for joining today's DSO Functions webinar. Today on our agenda, we have Andreas, who's our smart grid engineer. He'll be going through our distribution future electricity scenarios. We'll also have a live demo of data in action from Barry Burke, our DSO data manager. Paul George, our DSO commercial lead, will be covering flexible services, and Georgia, our flexible solutions engineer, will take you through operational decision making. And while I've got this opportunity, I just want to touch on some housekeeping. We do ask that mics and cameras are turned off while we go through the presentations. At the end of today's session, there will be an opportunity for a Q&A, and you're welcome to turn them on or use the chat feature that's available. It's worth being aware that today's session will be recorded. And then we have noticed that some AI note takers have joined. It's our company policy that we just don't allow them on to our sessions today. So I know some of them are automatically joining. So if you notice they've been removed, it has been with intention. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Andrea.
Thank you, Lotte. And thank you, everyone, to make your time to be here. My name is Andrea Ballanti, Smart Grid Engineer and DSO Forecasting Engineer. I've been in charge of the forecast aspect of our studies for the last 6 years, almost 7, time flies. And one of my responsibilities, one of the most challenging, but also most rewarding, is the DFES, one of several abbreviations that stands for Distribution Future Electricity Scenario. Now, what is DFES? DFES is a long-term forecast of generation and demand in our network, including batteries. Now, when we're talking about our network, just to give you a flavor of the complexity, we're not just talking about our region, our patch, the Northwest, but we're providing data down from last year to secondary substations that, as you might know, they are those small transformers that you can see on the street, on the poles, and there are more than 30,000 of them. That's a large number. And also, following our stakeholder feedback, we provide data at geographical area by local authority. Now, when we talk about forecast, we just don't do a forecast for one scenario, because it would be a bit silly to say, like in 2040, they're going to have precisely 1.234 million heat pumps. It doesn't work like that. We provide a forecast for different scenarios that try to capture the possibility of what might happen in the future. Last year in our DFES, we have 6 scenarios. 4 of them align with NESO, again, another abbreviation that stands for National Energy System Operator, and 2 of them that are our own scenario, best view and electric engagement. Now, all these 6 scenarios have been produced using our Atlas methodology. We are transparent, and you can find all the details on these innovation projects on our website. Just type Atlas ENW, as we recalled before. And this is an innovation project. It's been developed 7 years ago, but nevertheless, the forecasting process has been improved, and I was in charge of it for the last 6-7 years. Then we always keep building on top of it. Now, in the next slide, not to scare you, that's an oversimplified overview of how our forecasts work. Our forecasting processes last for roughly 14 months. We start a bit earlier than the financial year, and we use a significant amount of data. Now, I will not go through the details of this slide, of course, but just to give you a flavor of the complexity. We use best third-party data and internal data, like demographics, building blocks, how customers behave. And we use data from our network, of course, our measurements, and also we use data from our stakeholders. There are several people in our team. I just mentioned one of them, that is Ivan, that does an exceptional job by interacting, having one-to-one meeting with our stakeholders, including all local authority. We are talking about hundreds of people that every year we talk to, and our expert power system engineer extract those information about future development, turn them in power system insights that then feed to our, I call it DSO forecasting machine, that is our evolved Atlas approach. It is a bottom-up approach and time series. Just to give you a flavor of the complexity, we're talking about an approach, that a methodology that takes us almost 12 months to develop every year, and it considers more than 60 million historical data points that myself and my colleagues process every single year, more than 40,000 distribution generation are connected to our network that we model, and several thousands of connections that come to our network that we also consider. Now, after bragging a bit on how we like a lot our DFES and how powerful it is and how it's been evolved over the years, let's see what DFES tell us and what the future look like. We're going to start with some high-level figures for 2040. Here in these nice infographics, you can see what we're going to expect in 2040 based on our best view. Just to mention, the best view is one of our 6 scenarios, is the one with the highest certainty, and that short term in the next 10 years. I'm expecting to have in 2040 roughly 50% of people with heat pump, 90% of people with EV, and 1 every 16 homes will have a rooftop. Now you might say, well, so little. Well, the Northwest, as you might know, is not one of the sunniest areas to live. And also take into account that flats, they're not going to have each of them a photovoltaic panel. There will be just one for the whole building. Now here we just dive a tiny bit more into the details with some numbers to show what we expect in 2040. And in terms of annual electricity demand in energy, we're going to jump from roughly 21 terawatt hour of today to 44. This is almost doubling and is driven mainly, but not only, from our LCT, electric vehicles and heat pumps, that are going to go from roughly 170K of today to 3 million in our patch, and heat pump are going to rise as well to 1.2 million. We're expecting, of course, also the DG capacity to increase significantly as well, for instance, battery storage. Again, these are numbers from our DFES 2024. The new DFES will be published potentially end of this year, beginning of the next, with updated figures. Now, what I provided now was just a bit of a snapshot of what's going to happen in 2040, but how we're going to get there? Well, for that, we have these couple of slides in which I will provide just a quick overview in terms of demand and energy, how the future might look like. Now, in these slides, without going too much into the details, on my right-hand side, you will see a graph that shows the annual peak demand forecast for the 6 scenarios. On the horizontal axis, you have the time. On the vertical axis, you have the peak demand expressed as percentage of the historical. Then at the beginning, you just have 100%, and then it goes up depending on the scenario. Now, you see the beauty of modeling different scenarios. Every scenario captures a different potential future. We have a counterfactual, that is a scenario in which we don't decarbonize as fast as we need, in which we don't reach net zero by 2050, and a scenario that is called accelerated decarbonization, that is the dark green, in which the policy are strong, we decarbonize fast, the customers have the ability and the support to adopt low carbon technology fast, and that's what's going to happen. Now, as you can see, this scenario have different trends. We did another webinar event in which we discussed the DFES in details. There's like a set of 30, 40 slides that discuss that. You can find them on our website, but essentially every scenario have different levers, different input that you can switch to define how the future will look like. Just to make you an example, for instance, here you can see those 2 scenarios, they ramp up quickly compared to those 2. And that is driven by, in our assumption, when the gas boiler will be banned from new buildings. In this scenario, we assume 2030, in this 2035, for instance. That drives the different uptakes. And so that applies to the other 20 more inputs that we can control to define potential different futures. In this scenario, in these slides, apologies, you can see the proportion of energy consumption for our best view for different demand components. Now, without going to the nitty details, what I want you to remember is how EV and heat pump will play a key role. As you can see, this green area is the energy consumption due to EV, and this dark gray is the energy consumption due to heat pump. So you can see it's going to ramp up, is expected to increase significantly in the next few years, and they're going to be the main 2 drivers to our increased demand and energy consumption. Here is another slide. This time we are focused on electrification of transport. On my left-hand side, you can see the buses and HGV and heavy electric vehicles. And on the right-hand side, you can see pure EV cars and vans and small electric vehicles. This is showing all the scenario, and here we're just showing best view to avoid to have too many lines. Now, For buses and HGV, you can see that in the short term, I would say until 2030, more or less, buses are going to be higher in number. Why? Well, it's just a technology questions. Buses are smaller, they're easy to electrify, but in the long term, we're expecting the technology to be mature enough for the HGV to take over, because there are, of course, more HGV in our patch than buses. HGV are small in number, you might say 40,000 compared to the 3 million we're going to have for small cars. But remember, the HGV are also quite big, several times of what a car can consume. Then their modeling, of course, is very important. And it's one of the several improvements we did over the years by modeling better and better how the HGV will be interacting with our network when electrified. Here you can see the increase in demand for electric vehicles. You can see it's pretty linear, following the historical information, how the electric vehicle uptake is going in our area. The next slide, you can have an overview of the electrification of heating. On the left-hand side, you have the domestic. On the right-hand side, the industrial. We have more or less a similar uptake with just three main groups of scenarios. These first two, that are the one that is called the more optimistic, strong policy, strong adoption, by 2030, ban of gas boiler, and then uptake of heat pump in new builds, this is in 2035. And in these two scenarios, hydrogen will play a major role, while in this one, the counterfactual, we're not going to meet the decarbonization target, that's why it's so slow. But you can see the trend is quite significant, although, as you can see, there's a thicker line here, because our best view is the scenario for which we give highest confidence in the shorter term. Finally, if we go to our forecasting data, I'm going to provide just a quick overview because we have a forecasting data expert, our good colleague Barry, on the call. I will give a live demo, but here just to drop a nudge that all this complex process that we are so proud of and that we develop over the years, thanks to you stakeholders for your feedback and your insights, all these data are available on our website through a workbook that is an Excel spreadsheet with lots of tabs, and also through CSV tables that you can download from our open data portal. But not only CSV tables, we have also maps. You can create your custom views, you can create your graphs, or if you're even like a bit more data nerd like myself, you can use API to automatically download those data when you need it. To note that last year we published also our first LV workbook that contains the forecast across 30,000 secondary substations. And just again to stress the volume of information that we share every year. And finally, last slides to tell what's coming next. As some of you might know, we have a new entity in the energy world that is the National Energy System Operator, the NESO, that has several very important tasks. One of them is the development of the regional energy strategic plans that, in short, are plans that are going to tell how the uptake of generation and demand is going to happen for regions. And there is also a rest for the Northwest. The DSO team is strongly engaging with the NESO through working groups, bilaterals, webinar, to shape out the first version of the RESP that is called TRESP is going to look like. And it is part of this process for the NESO to share with us some data, especially on LCT uptake, on what the future based on the RESP is going to look like. And this data, they're going to be embedded in our new DFES 2025, coming by the beginning of next year. And this will, of course, inform our ED3 business plan. And that should be it from me. I thank you for your time and for being here today. And if you have any question, please use the chat, let us know. Lottie will also share some contacts to contact us if you need. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. And I will pass the mic to Lottie and Barry. Thanks.
Hi, good morning. I'm Barry Burke. I'm the DSO data manager for SP ENW. And today I'd like to introduce you to the data portal if you've not already seen it and interacted with it. And I will also explain our vision for how to make data more accessible for the end user. So without further ado, I'll share my screen and bring up our data portal. Common to all DNOs, we offer a data portal where we make various data sets available to our end users. We start with our homepage. If I just get my mouse up here, we have an assisted search where you can type in a word to find any particular data set that we may or may not have. We have a contact us, a very important thing, which I'll go back to near the end of the conversation. And our homepage obviously showcases some of our enhanced data sets, which again I will talk through very shortly. But first of all, I'll just give you a brief navigation of the portal. So from the homepage, we have our data catalog, where all the data sets that we have made available can be found. There is a search functionality on the side, along with a number of filters you can use to narrow down a search. The data sets themselves, so if I just do a search for ECR, Embedded Capacity Register, so number 2, 1 megawatt and above, basically it starts off as a table. We show you the table format, which is probably the most familiar view of this sort of data. It originally came from a spreadsheet, and this is atypical of or typical of what you would expect to see. The way the portal works is that we can add additional value to this data set. Now, as you see, this is flat file. This is potentially non-spatial. There are no spatial characteristics in its native format. However, by us adding GIS data on top of this embedded capacity register, we're now making something that's a lot more relevant to an end user. So you can click on one, and it has all the attributes that you've seen in the table earlier, as available as a map tab. So you can scroll through, which makes it easier to understand what's relevant to you in terms of a search, rather than being faced with something like this, where you are maybe looking at needles in a haystack sort of thing. The portal will also allow you to analyze data here by the energy source tab, and we could do maximum on, oh, no, we can't. We can do counts. You can narrow this down based on town or city. So let's look at Manchester, and all of a sudden the grid supply points that have been mentioned in the ECR are there for you to have a look, and maybe it breaks down the data held in that catalog a little bit easier to digest. You also have the ability, from opening a file within the data catalog, to export it in a number of formats, your flat files, your CSV, your JSON, your Excels, or if there are spatial characteristics to that data set, there are geographic file formats which can be downloaded too. Interestingly as well, if you do a filter, like I filtered on Manchester, you have the option of only selecting that 57 records for Manchester to be downloaded. So if you're narrowing down your search, you do not necessarily have to download the full data set. You can just get the stuff that's specific to you. And finally, if you have any apps or coding, you can reference these data sets direct from an API. And all the information for you to embed this code in is contained alongside each of the data sets. The portal also allows you to create your own data, your own information, by adding data sets to a map. So these are the BSP polygons. These can be selected and added directly to your map. So now you've got areas defining or an approximation of the feeding area of a BSP, and multiple data sets can be laid on top of this for you to create your own bespoke maps. Once you've registered to access the data portal, these maps can actually be saved. So if you're looking at the same sort of information on a month-by-month basis or a quarter-by-quarter basis, you can save these maps, and the refresh data will show each time you open it. Similarly, you can create charts of data. So BSP headroom, select that. So you have the opportunity to play around with the formats and develop your own charts based on the parameters. You can do firm and non-firm. There are any number of possibilities in this particular area. In the top menu, you're actually playing around. We have, in the data sets, we have made some suggestions as to what would be an appropriate setting for a chart, but again, it's for you to play with, or you to understand as you want, basically. There's an API function on here where you can write your own API code based on the data sets that we have shown. And really, that is it. Some of these menus you see across the top are potentially additional pages, boundary flow information. So you can select by a time period for the boundary flow information for GSPs, BSP generation, or BSP fuel types. All here for you to have a look at and play around with. But what I will just touch on before I go is something that I mentioned earlier on, is what we call additional value, added value to a data set. Now, Andrea was talking about DFES a little earlier, and the DFES isn't actually opening for me now. It's a very big spreadsheet. It's oh, here we go. In case you're not familiar with the DFES in its native format, just scroll around here a little. So local authority energy data, as you can see, I mean, this is vast, and it doesn't necessarily lend itself to inspection, certainly at high level. So what we've done, we've taken this DFES data, and we've actually changed it somewhat. We've pivoted it. We've used some of our analytical tools. So we've taken that data. We've used some of our analytical tools. We've pivoted the data. We've made it ODS friendly. ODS being the portal provider. And what it's allowed us to do, we've just introduced our interactive DFES page, where we've sort of simplified, we've grouped, we've simplified the data that Andrea was just talking about. We've got a nice link here to the DFES homepage on our E&W, Scottish Power E&W portal. And we can also identify all the data sets that are used within this particular web page. A little bit of a brief description. We've got over 6,000 separate charts on this page, and we broke it down by local authority, county, Lake District National Park, primary, BSP, and entire network. So if we look at the local authority, we've got the polygons from Ordnance Survey defining each local authority by selecting one of them, in this case Lancaster. We're now seeing all the available data sets for Lancaster as a local authority. So we've got the years for the DFES scenarios run across the bottom, and similar to the charts that Andrea showed, we're showing each of the scenarios. What we can also do here is we can take away some of these scenarios. If you're specifically looking at one and then maybe comparing it to just a singular separate, or you can introduce all of the scenarios one at a time. just for your own analysis, basically. So the tables are available there, but it doesn't stop there. So from Lancaster, we've looked at it as a chart view. We can click onto table view. So we're seeing that spreadsheet data that we've seen earlier. And if you wanted to snip this spreadsheet data, you can just click this link here, and it's making that selection of data available. So just to verify, we're looking at Lancaster Local Authority. So just 168 records that are relevant to Lancaster are being made available. This same action is available for, so yeah, Lake District National Park primaries, primary polygons, BSP polygons, and an entire network. Each one of these obviously allows you to drill down in, and there's 51 tables for the entire network, and they can be just tabbed up and down to scroll through for you to examine as you please, really. So this is the future. This is how we're trying to make data more accessible to the end user. What we will be doing is converting more of our data sets into these sort of more visual with a geospatial reference, so you can understand, yes, I want to look at Lancaster, I want to look at South Peak or Greater Manchester, and we will try and align more of our content to this sort of format. Finally, before I go, and very important really, we have a contact us section. Now, we try to second guess what the people are actually after, what you guys are looking for in terms of data. If you have a look through our data sets and you can't see what you're looking for, please fill in one of these contact forms and just let me know. Send me a message. What data are you thinking of? And if it's something that we can achieve, we have certain restrictions in terms of the data we can share. But if it's something we can share and it is available to me, I'll certainly look into it and see if we can do it for you. That's it really, Lottie.
Thank you very much. I thought while we're on the call, it'd be good to just pop a quick poll to say what additional data would help those that are on the call today. So I'm just going to launch that poll. Now, teams can appear differently for kind of which version you might be using. So it should come up as a pop-up on your screen. But if you haven't seen that, if you move over to the chat function, you will be able to see it there. So I'll keep these open while the event is running, but please feel free to add any data that would help you get the most out of the portal. And as Barry said, he's always open to exploring. If the data can be available, he certainly will make it available. So I will now get the presentation back up and hand over to Paul. Thank you very much, Barry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Lottie. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join this morning's webinar. My name's Paul George. I'm the DSO commercial lead here at SP ENW. The responsibilities for myself and my team, we're effectively delivering our capacity management strategies. So thinking of ways in which we can extract additional capacity from our existing network infrastructure, and also delivering our suite of flexibility services, which include our biannual flexibility services tenders. So just a really quick introduction in what I'm going to cover for the next 10-15 minutes or so. So I'm going to start with a really high level introduction to DSO. I'm going to touch upon our DSO, social DSO strategy, which we launched in February this year. I'm going to touch upon community energy and flexibility in particular, and then finish off with just a very brief high level kind of signposting to our upcoming autumn 2025 tender. So I appreciate that a lot of people on the call will be aware in terms of what's happening across the national energy system. and that whole energy transition piece. But just really quickly on this, just to set the scene. So the UK is undergoing an unprecedented transformation in how electricity is generated, how it's stored, how it's transported, and how it's traded. So the traditional top-down model, where, if you can see on the slide, the top swim lane, where electricity flows from traditionally large power plants through to the national transmission system, into the distribution networks, and then into the homes and businesses that we serve, which is 2.4 million across our network region. This whole system is evolving. So the second swim lane at the bottom is going to replace that traditional model. So we're looking at a more decentralized, which will lead to a more decarbonised energy system. So this model is emerging with local producers generating energy and supplying it directly to their communities. So us as a DSO, we play a crucial role in reducing the cost of the energy transition, and through collaboration, accelerating the decarbonisation objectives of businesses, of local authorities, and more importantly, promoting economic growth and providing that critical infrastructure needed to achieve net zero. So you can see here, we're looking at more innovative ways of tapping into those kind of local energy systems. So behind the meter generation, storage, as Andrea articulated in his previous slides, those forecasts and thinking about that kind of load growth across the network, the inclusion of heat pumps and EVs. We're looking to tap into that to provide us with flexibility, which will ultimately help us to defer network reinforcement, because it can be costly, it can be time consuming, it can be very disruptive, and also thinking about the connection to the network as well. So fundamentally, the more low carbon technologies we can connect to our network, this will ultimately drive the decarbonisation aspirations of all our customers and stakeholders. So that's just a quick synopsis of why we do what we do and the importance of this evolution of the traditional energy grid and the role that the DSO plays. So just to cover off really quickly in terms of our social DSO strategy, I'm going to start this by making a reference to demand side response. So traditionally, demand side response or flexibility services has traditionally been very prominent in industrial commercial businesses. So those energy intensive users that have behind the meter generation or really intensive processes within their operations, which allows them to shift or change how they manage their energy demand. But we're looking to kind of broaden our remit a little bit. So we recognize the advent of domestic flexibility, so away from the traditional I&C players, and the role that domestic and, more importantly, community energy plays in terms of helping us manage our network. So the real goals for us from a DSO strategy perspective is, I think from the mission perspective, we're trying to enable the Northwest to achieve a just energy transition. And what that looks like is kind of 4 key themes. So for sure, we're looking to support our network. So we're looking to reduce network capacity bottlenecks in the region through the use of third-party flexibility services, which again will help us defer that network reinforcement. It will also help us put more low carbon technologies onto the network by creating the headroom and hopefully shortening that connections queue as well. The other key theme of this is delivering social benefits. So again, back to my earlier point, traditionally big I&C customers have been playing in a demand side response or flexibility space, but we recognize and we're very cognizant that there's much more assets available to us as a network, and really that involvement of community energy and domestic energy, how that can help us manage the network. So we're looking to make investment decisions that maximize societal benefits in the Northwest, supporting the environment, supporting the economy, and delivering community resilience. We have some notorious parts of our network, maybe rural or maybe kind of low income challenges, which prevents certain stakeholders from making that energy transition or deploying low carbon technologies. So we're looking to kind of stimulate that through our activities and work streams. For me, this is the most important one. The third theme is around collaborating, co-creating. So we want to work collaboratively with our communities, with our stakeholders, to increase system efficiency by using smart technology and strategic partnerships to maximize clean, renewable energy when it's available to help us manage our network. And then lastly, this kind of ties into third-party flexibility. I mentioned it earlier, that shift from traditional I&C participants into the more domestic and community-based participants. So we're looking to promote broader sharing of flexibility services benefits by supporting those clean energy investments, delivering sustainability and supporting climate projects in communities. And as part of that, one of the key activities that's come from this is that we've created a community flexibility fund. So historically, we and some of the participants on the call today might be aware that we had a fund of money which was the Powering Our Community Fund, which was in place directly to support community energy groups who want to play an active role in the local energy system. We've pivoted slightly and repurposed this fund. So the new term of Community Flexibility Fund, it's essentially going to provide match funding for projects that will help communities install assets like batteries, solar, any other behind the meter generation, and allow them to take part in our local flexibility markets. So again, we're really stimulating and helping to build a greener, more resilient and more inclusive energy network. Just really quickly on this slide. So why are we doing this? We're trying to make it easier for communities to participate in our flexibility markets, which in turn we can reciprocate with delivering cost benefits to our stakeholders across the region. We're looking to deliver social and environmental benefits. So again, you know, we typically look at the main metric of if we can defer a network reinforcement, it allows us to invest that money we would have otherwise spent in that reinforcement in different parts of our network. But we're also looking to lean into those much more harder to reach customers, the stakeholders or communities. So again, I've mentioned those rural customers or low income customers or those customers that sit on our priority services register. We're really trying to help them and support them in terms of decarbonising, whilst in turn helping us manage the network. And we want to accelerate local efforts to decarbonise and build resilience as well, with support with any unplanned outages and issues with energy security. And the main theme of this really is supporting our community to own flexibility assets. So if we can somehow stimulate and provide an additional layer of support where we give autonomy to our community in terms of owning and managing assets, that really helps us as a network as well, delivering a more resilient and smart energy system across the Northwest. And then key for us as well, we want to build trust and transparency in how we run our network. So we really want and we really kind of drive for the involvement of our communities and stakeholders in that as well. Who can apply for this fund? So you must be a legally constituted community energy organisation. Obviously, you must operate within our network area. The project must be demonstrable in terms of delivering clear local benefits, i.e. tackling fuel poverty or improving energy resiliency. You must have secured match funding offered, creating a joint investment in these outcomes. So this is the kind of co-creation and collaboration piece. And propose an asset that helps address local network needs. So we're looking to invest in projects which will deliver community benefits while simultaneously helping us support and address those local constraints on the network. And then finally, and this is the kind of the intrinsic link into the flexibility services piece, these particular projects must be willing to sign a flexibility contract once the asset is installed. So in other words, if we support the development of building a particular asset, then that asset, when it's energized, we will be looking to leverage that in our flexibility tenders, which in turn will generate some revenue as well. So what support is on offer? So we're looking per project to match fund up to a value of £50,000. We have a broad range of expertise that sits within the business, and we will make that available to community energy projects to deliver expert advice, asset feasibility, and as Andrea and Barry have also mentioned, really helping you make best use of the DFES work and the vast array of data that's available to you in terms of identifying what parts of the network is kind of going to give you most bang for your buck, whilst helping us manage the network, also, you know, maximizing potential revenues for the asset as well. We'll offer guidance and support from our community energy liaison team as well. So we've got a dedicated community liaison team who will be on hand to kind of stay in contact with you and support you right the way through the whole process, from feasibility studies to the delivering of the project as well. We also have a community energy toolkit as well, which can kind of help measure the benefits of particular projects, again, which really help you understand and get into the granular detail of what societal benefits the project might bring, but also more importantly, what revenue potential is available as well through accessing our flexibility contracts. And we'll also help with contracts and reporting requirements as well. So not just getting the asset kind of energized and operational, but then really providing that kind of ongoing support in terms of how is it performing, what is the value that it's bringing, not just to us as a network, but more importantly to the community as well. I think Lottie is going to put a short poll on the screen now, and really just as a quick kind of guidance on this, we have a governance process behind the scenes that will evaluate these particular projects if any requests come through. So very simple poll on the screen. If you'd like to learn more or want to discuss in more detail this particular fund and how to access it, just click on the poll and we will in turn be in contact with you. So I'll give you a few moments just to respond to that.
Thanks, Paul. And just to explain, it'll capture your email address in the background. So if you click yes, please, I'll have visibility, and I'll share that with Paul so he can be in touch.
Thank you, Lottie. So we've talked about the DSO. We've spoke about some of the challenges. And I think we're going to move now into what the opportunities are for our customers and stakeholders. So the community energy piece and the social DSO strategy that I've just talked through is intrinsically linked to third-party flexibility services. And there are kind of key three themes in terms of what flexibility or demand side response looks like. Those are demand reduction. So if you can reduce your demand upon the network, your import demand on the network, that helps us create additional headroom on the network for us. There's generation. So if you've got generative assets that again can provide that additional headroom at times when we need it, that also supports us managing the network. And then finally as well, we've got the energy efficiency piece. So thinking about the low-hanging fruit in many ways. So as most businesses are going through an energy efficiency kind of drive within the business, be it, you know, just improving building fabrics through insulation, through modernizing equipment, be it retrofits of solar panel and LED lighting, that helps reduce the peak demand upon our network, and that's something we're looking to capture and monetize as well. From a generation perspective, again, I've put a few examples on the screen. So we're thinking about renewable generation, we're thinking about CHP, we're thinking about solar and battery, and also standby generation as well can also be a key way into delivering flexibility on our network when we need it. And then demand reduction. So again, this is not exhaustive. This is just to highlight a few examples. So if you've got EV charge points, effectively utilizing the load management function through the CPO, or if you control the charge points yourself, thinking about scheduled ways in which you can either turn down or reduce the kilowatts that are going into the charge points can also participate in flexibility as well. And as mentioned earlier, if you're an industrial commercial user, turning off or shifting intensive processes as well can also create that headroom and controlling heating systems. So in essence, on that screen, we've got different use cases in terms of what we're looking to monetize from flexibility perspective. We appreciate it's not a one size fits all. It's absolutely, there's unique profiles in terms of how businesses use energy and what the art of possible is in terms of what they can turn off or what they can turn down. So again, please reach out to myself and the team and we can work with you to understand the practical ways in which you can take advantage and participate in our flexibility tenders. Just a couple of 3 points at the bottom of the screen. So we have a minimum threshold of 10 kilowatt, which can be derived from either an individual asset or an aggregation of assets. So again, thinking about making this really inclusive, 10 kilowatts is quite achievable. And again, that can come from a group of assets or from an individual asset. The flexibility that we contract can come from either an existing energized asset or for those owners and operators that are looking to develop projects and assets. This can come from planned assets as well. And on the upcoming slides, I'll show you that we put our requirements out to 2028. So you've got a broad range of requirements that we put out to the end of our ED2 period. And then lastly on this slide, we are technology agnostic. So again, we appreciate the need to be able for this to be kind of ubiquitous in terms of who we're looking to contract with and what technologies can participate in order to maximize that participation for us as well. So just really quickly, the DSOs across the UK have a standardized set of products. We've got 4 products out of the 5 standard products that have been defined through the ENA in collaboration with the other DSOs. We've got dispatchable and scheduled. So the dispatchable products are kind of operational products. So we have variable availability and operational utilization and an operational utilization product. These 2 products are really to help us procure ahead of time. But the availability parameters are refined closer to the event to determine the amount of flexibility delivered is agreed near real time based on the actual network measurement data. And the top product is both a utilization payment and also an availability payment. So you can receive kind of 2 strands of revenue for that, one for making the asset available, and then the other strand being once that instruction has been given and flexibility is delivered, there's a utilization payment which is triggered on the back of that. The second dispatchable product is the operational utilization. So again, very similar to the top product. This provides a service where the amount of flexibility is delivered, agreed, near real time, again, based on the actual needs of the network. And this is just a utilization payment only. That's the key difference between the 2 products, utilization only and availability utilization payment. We acknowledge that not all businesses or participants have the ability to deliver in real time. So predominantly through an API trigger event where we send an API signal from our platform into the end users, which then in turn they will react and deliver flexibility. So we have some scheduled products as well. So for our low voltage requirements, we have a scheduled and peak reduction utilization product, which again, flexibility providers can alter their supply up or down in accordance with a predefined schedule. So this is us giving you in advance notification of what flex we need and when we need it. And then finally, the peak reduction product, which is across not just a low voltage network, but across our EHV and HV, provides a reduction in peak demand utilized over time. So this is really where businesses who, again, might not have really intensive processes in their operation, but can do kind of tactical changes in terms of installing solar, implementing building fabrics, building insulation, retrofitting LEDs, anything that reduces that peak demand over time in defined periods can contract with us and receive payments as well. More information can be found on our flexibility hub in terms of the products, and then we can get into the kind of more granular details of the parameters of the product, which we can share with you after the call as well. But again, really a call to arms on this. We are wanting to engage with as many people as we can. So from all different profiles, community energy projects, large industrial commercial businesses, SMEs, local authorities, we can work with you to understand and align what your capabilities are from delivering flex with the particular products and help you model the revenues that are available to you as well. So lastly from me, this is really a bit of a heads up in terms of the two biannual tenders that I referenced earlier in the call. So we delivered two tenders. We are spring and autumn. So we've just concluded our spring tender. We're constantly looking to evolve the flexibility use cases within our tenders. So we're looking at what's happened before and thinking about how we can modify it, how can we make them more inclusive. And we will be launching our autumn 25 tender towards the end of October. 27th of October is earmarked for the date. This will be concluded in March. So you can see on the right hand side at the top, you've got the timelines. So the kind of key milestones that sit within that tender. This tender, I can tell you, will represent and include our largest low voltage requirements to date. So in the autumn 24 tender, we launched a pilot in terms of delivering some low voltage requirements in the tender. That was significantly increased in our spring 25 tender. And that will be further developed in this autumn 25 tender. Again, back to my earlier point of not pigeonholing flexibility and demand side response with industrial commercial businesses. How can we take advantage of the opportunities across our secondary substations as well? And as mentioned, you know, the requirements that we put out, they cover from date to date to our the end of our ED2 period. So we're giving you advance notice of what we're looking for, how much we need, and where we need it across our network as well. And if you want to get involved in this, again, you know, happy to have some offline conversations with you, but a very simple process. We are proud to partner with Electron Connect, who perform the function of our flexibility services platform. And again, we can work with you from you know, from a trilateral perspective of engaging with yourself, involving Electron, thinking about the technical and commercial considerations of that process. But ultimately, there's a commercial qualification to go through. There's the provider giving us visibility of what assets they have across our region, understanding and aligning those assets with our available markets. There's a standardized framework agreement to sign, which again is common across all DSOs in the UK. And then there's a bidding window as well, which will open where potential providers can make bids into these particular markets. So that's the last slide from me. And again, I will offer our contact details, and we are willing and really open to speaking to as many people as we can. What we're finding more and more is that, again, those traditional participants in Flex is evolving. So yeah, please reach out to us, and I'm happy to set a call up offline with you. That's it from me. Thank you for listening, and I'll pass over to Georgia.
Yep. So hello everyone, my name is Georgia Anagnosiou, and I'm Flexible Solutions Engineer within the DSO team. Over the next few minutes, I will explain how we make fair and efficient decisions when we operate the network, guided by our Operational Decision-Making Framework, or the ODMF in short. To begin, our ODMF document describes our real-time decision-making processes, including how, when, and where we apply automation, flexibility, reinforcement, and human oversight in order to manage network constraints effectively. So we have created this document in response to our stakeholders' need for a consolidated view of how we make operational decisions. Why is this document important? Because it ensures our decision-making is transparent and fair, and it demonstrates how we operate a safe, reliable network at the lowest possible cost and carbon impact. It also ensures that we can appropriately manage constraints on our network and any conflicts of interest with other operators. It proves that we are a neutral market facilitator for flexibility services, and importantly, it supports informed decision-making for all parties. So this document is intended for all network users, essentially, because it provides, but it's especially relevant to stakeholders, regulators, and flexibility service providers. And this is because it allows them to review our processes, provide feedback, and it helps them better understand the opportunities and risks associated with network flexibility and automation. So here are the principles that guide how we operate the network, especially when we manage constraints or we have to respond to unexpected events. Our number one priority is always safety. We ensure that the network always operates within safe working limits to protect our customers. We also focus on the security and resilience of our assets and on maintaining a stable and reliable network. Efficiency matters too. So we try to run the network at optimal performance, keeping costs and carbon impact as low as possible. Importantly, our decisions are made in a fair and transparent way. And last but not least, as part of our social DSO strategy, we make sure that no one is left behind. Our operational decisions and investment decisions are inclusive, supporting vulnerable customers, local services, and small businesses. So on this slide, I will briefly talk about the role of flexibility in how we operate the network. We have committed to using flexibility as our first response when managing network constraints, unlocking capacity, and supporting the transition to net zero, as opposed to using traditional network reinforcement. Of course, we do that. We use flex only as long as this is robust and economic to do so. So our flexibility first approach covers three areas. The first one is flexibility services, which Paul has already explained very nicely. The next one is flexible connections. These allow customers to connect to our network more quickly and cheaper in congested areas specifically, with some compromise on capacity. And the last area is flexible assets, which are equipment that we own and can control in order to actively reconfigure, modify the network in order to manage constraints. So the main use cases where we use flexibility are to mitigate or defer major load-related reinforcement, to temporarily manage any uncertainties around future demand growth, to restore network supplies following an unplanned outage, for example, during a storm event. We use flex to handle short-term peaks, for example, during major sporting events or planned construction or maintenance works. And finally, we use flex to release capacity and offer quicker and cheaper connections to our customers. So this slide shows how we manage the dispatch of distributed energy resources across our network. Our approach is built on three integrated systems, as you can see on your screen. Those are the Active Network Management System, or ANM in short, the Merit Order Management System, or MOM, and our third-party flexibility services platform, Electron Connect. Those three systems work together to ensure seamless real-time scheduling and dispatch of flexibility resources. And we use a combination of automated and manual dispatch methods. So the ANM system is becoming the primary method for dispatching flexible resources. However, our control engineers retain the ability to manually intervene when needed, for example, for safety or security of supply. So importantly, our dispatch strategy is technology agnostic. That means that we treat all distributed energy resources equally, all types, whether they are connected directly, whether they are contracted directly with us or via aggregators. So when a constraint arises, the A&M will dispatch flexibility resources in the following order. First, flexible assets, then flexible connections and flexibility services, and finally, if necessary, we might curtail non-flexible customers, but only as a last resort. So a bit more about the A&M. What is the A&M? A&M is a constraint management system, or in other words, think of A&M as the autopilot for managing constraints on the network. So the A&M continually monitors and controls the operation of all assets connected to our network, such as generators, batteries, controllable loads, and it also continually monitors the network constraints in real time. And when a predefined operational limit is breached, the A&M reacts and initiates corrective actions. Those actions can be to either change power flows using flexible assets or to instruct flexibility services or flexible connections to adjust their output or input. In January 2025, we achieved a huge milestone as our A&M went live following successful thorough testing. Now, one of the things that sets our A&M system apart is its integration. So unlike other DNOs, we have combined A&M and NMS into a single centralized platform. This means that we can achieve faster scaling in days, better control, and reduce risk of data loss. Our A&M can also facilitate peer-to-peer trading of constraints through our innovative ByTrader project. Another unique characteristic of our A&M system and our dispatch approach is that the dispatch order for flexible resources is dynamic, it's not static. And this is because the dispatch order is based on the curtailment index of each flexible resource. We are the only UK DNO that is using this curtailment index methodology. And this approach ensures that curtailment is fairer and more transparent as it is distributed across all flexible resources throughout the year. This approach also provides a maximum curtailment threshold for flexible resources, which means that customers' investment decisions can be guaranteed. And finally, our unique pseudo price concept allows us to merge uncompensated flexible connections and compensated flexibility services into a single stack in the optimal commercial order for dispatch. For FSPs, for flexibility service providers, this means more certainty on revenues, while flexible connections can benefit from appropriate caps on curtailment. Now, our A&M system delivers both operational and customer benefits. So those include faster fault restoration, increased network resilience, increased network utilization, and subsequently reduced need for reinforcement. Also, by automating constraint management, the A&M supports more flexibility services. The A&M also accelerates new connections, which would be unmanageable with human control only. And finally, over time, those efficiencies could lead to lower customer bills. So last year, as stakeholders told us, they really appreciated the detail and transparency in our ODMF document, which is great feedback for us. But they also wanted to see a more concise version for quicker understanding. So we've listened and responded to this feedback. And we have now published a lighter, simplified version of the ODMF, which still provides a great overview of how we make our operational decisions, but with fewer technical details. Final slide, we have committed to updating the ODMF document annually. Throughout the year, we actively seek stakeholder input on our principles, processes, and the document itself. So both the full ODMF version and the light version are available on our website, which you can download. Around November this year, we will draft the next ODMF version and release it for feedback via consultation. And then in February 2026, we will publish the final version incorporating all stakeholder inputs. Now, if you have any questions or feedback on the ODMF, you can email us directly, or you can just share your thoughts during this webinar. Thank you very much.